It did not eat for so many hours, probably many days. He addressed his stomach by saying, go ahead and make as much noise as you want. I swear to Allah, I will never eat until every Muslim in Medina eats. That's how merciful Umar ibn Khattab used to be. Uthman radiallahu anhu, despite the fact that he knew that some revolted against him from Egypt and Iraq back then to kill him, he did not want to assign an army to fight them because he does not want Muslims' blood to be shed. Not only this, but out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a story that is very famous and very well known to you. The story of the Baghi, the woman of Bani Israel. She used to work in haram. She used to commit a great sin. One day she was going back home and she found a dog. The story is well known to you as you know it. And the dog was licking the dust out of thirst. She was passing by him and she went to a well and she drank water. She was very thirsty. She was going to die out of thirst. But as she was leaving, she saw that dog. And she thought to herself and said, this dog must have had the experience of me minutes ago. She went to the well. She got some water in her shoes to the dog. She gave it to the dog. Now because of this little thing, this single act of mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave all her sins. All her major sins, as a matter of fact, out of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ. Of course, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world and the hereafter come for those who fear Him. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He created Jannah with 8 gates and hellfire with only 7, to indicate to you that His mercy overpowers His anger. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He assigned us and He will permit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to intercede in our behalf so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive us in a day judgment. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He will not permanently put a person in hellfire if he has as little as a mustard seed of iman, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He will never, and this is authenticated in a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, He will never punish a man or a woman who once cried and cheered out of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in this regard, one of the 7 types of people that Allah will shade him with His shade is a man or a woman who sits lonely by himself, starting imagining Jannah and hellfire, and he became scared of Allah's punishment. So some tears came out of his eyes. Just because of these little tears that came out of his eyes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never put him in hellfire. Imagine how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not exposing the sins that we do in this world, and He also will hide it from being exposed to others. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring a person and talk to him personally. You remember that day when you did so and so? Yes, Allah, I remember. Did anybody see you? No, Allah, nobody saw me. You remember that day when you did so and so? Did anybody know about it? No, Allah, nobody knew about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said then, قَدْ سَتَرْتُهَا عَلَيْكَ فِي الدُّنْيا وَأَسْتُرُهَا الْيَوْمَ عَلَيْكَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ. I did not want you to be exposed in this world, and today also I'm going to forgive you in the hereafter. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He will join the family members of those who go to Jannah. As we know, there is 3 kinds of shafa'a yawm al-qiyamah, 3 kinds of intercession. One of them is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's intercession, the one I just spoke about, and one of them is the intercession of righteous people. If you go to Jannah, for example, and you have a friend of yours or a family member that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started to go to hellfire because he didn't deserve to go to Jannah, you may ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him and make him join you in Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this regard, والذين آمنوا واتبعتهم ذريتهم بإيمان ألحقنا بهم ذريتهم وما ألتناهم من عملهم من شيء. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He will forgive all the sins, even if they are as much as the sea foam. And there's no greater example to give than the man who killed 100 people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finally forgave him, despite the fact that he didn't do any hasanat in his life. There isn't one single deed that he did, but because his intention was to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah forgave him. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exchanging and replacing the sins of the person who repents into hasanat. إلا من تاب وآمن وعمل عملا صالحا فأولئك يبدل الله سيئاتهم حسنات. Except those who repent and do good deeds, Allah will replace their sins into hasanat. Can you imagine this? Imagine disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 30 or 40 years. You have thousands and thousands accumulated sins. But because you went back to Allah, because you knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the merciful God, because you believe the ayah in the Quran that says قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ, or you believe those who wasted too much time in their lives sinning, لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ, never get disappointed of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا, Allah indeed forgives all the sins. So when a person goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, repents, all these 40 years of sins not only will be erased from his record, but Allah will change it into hasanat. So a person actually might be lucky or luckier than a person who never committed any sins in his life, than a person who committed a lot of sins and then repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though of course I don't recommend that persons do sins and then repent at the end of their lives. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He writes one sin as a single sin in your record. But if you do one hasanat, He writes it to you as 10 hasanat. Out of His mercy azza wa jal. Out of His mercy azza wa jal is that He allowed us to shorten and combine the salah when traveling. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that when a Muslim thinks of doing a hasanah, but he couldn't do it, something prevented him from doing, Allah will give him the hasanah anyway. And out of the mercy of Allah, if a Muslim is about to do a sin, and then he remembered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his punishment, and he did not do that sin, Allah will give him hasanah for it too, because he remembered that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is his God. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, is that He made us Muslims, and this is the greatest bounty that a Muslim may think of, because we are the only promised nation that will go to Jannah inshallah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about the horrors of Yawm al-Qiyamah, and says that out of each 1,000 person, one will go to Jannah and 999 will go to hellfire. The companions were so scared and afraid. Imagine that 1,000 people are sitting in this masjid now. One out of us, just one, will go to Jannah, and 999 people will go to hellfire. But the Prophet ﷺ assured the Sahaba that inshallah the Muslims will representing 2/3 of the people of Jannah. Those 999 people from people who came before us. For example, Musa alayhi salam's followers will go to Jannah, and the ones who did not follow will go to hellfire. Isa alayhi salam's followers will go to Jannah, and so on. But alhamdulillah, the bigger ratio or the big percentage will become from Muslims out of His mercy azza wa jal. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this month of Ramadan to make us from those who are forgiven by Allah, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who are exposed to Allah's mercy in this month, first month of Ramadan, because the Prophet ﷺ says, أَلَا إِنَّ لِلَّهِ فِي أَيَّامِكُمْ نَفَحَاتٍ أَلَا فَتَعَرَّضُوا لَهَا. Indeed, there are seasons of forgiveness, so expose yourself to them, and there is no better time than asking Allah for forgiveness in these blessed days of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our deeds, and accept our fasting, and accept our salah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.